You are all welcome again to today's discussion. Thank you. Welcome to this lunch. I appreciate your time to join in today for today's discussion. If you are returning viewers, we appreciate you. If you are joining for the first time, we also thank you. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, you can find us on YouTube or Facebook. Search for Views Lunch and subscribe. Thank you.
For today's address, we will be talking about self-discovery and unlocking your potentials. My name is Dami Olubisi. I'm 23 years old. I graduated with an economics degree from Wheaton College, Massachusetts. I'm a business analyst and I work in fintech, and I'm currently based in the UK. So before we get started, we want to ensure that we all have a happy and fun time together whilst learning. Here we go. So our icebreaker, we asked two questions. What are the assumptions that people have made about your self-expression? And do you think those assumptions were based in some truth or completely false? And I just want to open the floor to anybody who may have any thoughts on this topic. Okay, so somebody actually just made a suggestion. My generation did not really experience this much. Camille Lamidi, do you mind elaborating a bit more on this point?
Okay, thank you, Dami. Growing up, somebody like me, I grew up in Africa. Specifically, I grew up in Nigeria. And given our cultural background, we did not really have a situation where people have or made any assumption about our self-expression. While we express ourselves within the locality that we grew up, we had little or no say, because the society actually mold the way we should behave, the way we should think. And the saying that it takes a village to raise a child was actually applicable to us, to my generation in particular. Whether we like it or not, any assumption that anybody has about us or had about us were largely culturally true, and even the society or our locality actually takes them as the gospel truth. So I would say that not that we didn't have that ability to do our own self-expression, but we were able to do it within the concept or the context or the confine of the environment we grew up in. And I can give you one specific example, which is to the fact that if a child misbehaves, the community has the right to discipline that child. And I'll give you an example exactly what happened to me as a person. When I was growing up, I was in like primary 4, if I recollect very well. One of my teachers, Mr. Titebi, is actually my dad's personal friend. So there was a situation where I misbehaved in school, in quote, misbehaved in school. And I had what I would call the beating of my life in school. When I got home, and my dad noticed that I wasn't behaving well. I was feeling kind of sick. And he asked me what happened. And I told him, oh, this is what happened. I was beaten by Mr. Titebi. He said, you must have done something bad. Well, I forgot about it. I didn't know that he now went to ask Mr. Titebi what really happened in school. He came back only to start another round of beating. And to a great extent, that kind of tell me that, you know what, you shouldn't misbehave anymore in school. And that was the last time I would think I misbehaved. So was it justified or not? Well, it's okay. But I just give this background so that you understand where people of my own generation, where we are coming from, and the kind of assumption that we have people making about us. And do we think the assumptions are right or not? Well, sometimes they could be false, sometimes they could be right. But we had little or no say. Thank you.
So, as a follow-up question, do you think those assumptions were based in some truth, or do you think that that context that you grew up in was fair to you?
Well, as I said, I would say that it's partially the assumptions were based in some on truth. I would say that one partially. So that's why I say it's neither here nor there. Because growing up, we were kind of mischievous, I must be honest with you. We were mischievous in our own little way. But the truth is this, we have that situation where the society has influence or had influence on us. They mold us, and they have the right to do that.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective. Um, Another person has contributed to this conversation, to the answer of what are the assumptions that people have made about your self-expression, to which their response was boyish and troubler. And do you think those assumptions were based in some truth or completely false? And what the person responded with was, it is said that your name isn't what you're called at birth, but what people observe about you. And I think this statement is going to be a statement that we will really, really dive into. And I think this is the perfect segue to introducing our first speaker, Mr. Olumide.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, and it's good to be here as well. So first of all, I raise up my hand to say I'm not a motivational speaker. I just like to engage with teenagers. I like to engage with young adults. I like to engage with my peers, and definitely, of course, talking about being focused and then how to add value to self, right? So my name is Olumide Olawale. I'm 36 years old. I'm married with a son, and we're based in Abu Dhabi. Have a bachelor's in computer science, and I have an MBA. I've been working with tech companies, and about 12 years experience now working as an IT infrastructure specialist. I worked as a service manager, and I've worked with several companies. So basically, I mean, my background, of course, from a Christian home with very strong Christian values, and back in the days as a teenager, I had a lot of energy, vigor. I was pretty ambitious, right? But of course, my dad being a pastor, didn't shield me from peer pressure, didn't shield me from the societal ills, and everything went really well. It was cool. Primary school was good, secondary, and I just wanted that freedom. And I got into university, and it was almost like everything went down south. I was very playful. Sometimes in a whole week, barely attended classes, into tests, exams, was really carried away by peer pressure. A couple of friends, would say, let's go to parties, we did a lot of ugly things, of course, which I would say, but for me, it's not about the story, it's about, the lessons, from this stories, right? From my experience. Yeah. And, it cost me a lot. First of all, I didn't graduate on time. I had an extra year. And then, I couldn't, apply for a couple of opportunities that came my way. I had some setbacks in trying to get admissions, graduate admission, and it was really awful. It was tough for me because it was, you know all these things, and you just think you're having fun. It's good to be there. You want to, belong to a group, to a class that you really don't have a business with, right? And just find out, you've wasted so much time, you wasted your life, but I think the good thing is, there's always a point of realization, right? And unfortunately, not everybody, has a second chance, because while in school, I had a couple of friends, they joined cults, they went for parties, had accidents, and some of them died, and, they lost their lives, in this process. And they never had a second chance. I have a couple of friends where, they got to the point of realization, but it was pretty much very late, and so I think I've been very lucky, and it's just faith and grace. And the point of realization for me was after I had this extra year, and all the friends had left school. It was just me alone. And there were a couple of opportunities that came up. And then it was back in Nigeria, and tech companies were really coming into the country. The landscape was really big, taking advantage of the space, and a couple of opportunities. And I had two particularly, that just wanted me to resume. I just needed the statement of results to say I graduated from school. But I couldn't, take advantage of this, opportunities. And, I went back to school, and it dawned on me that, oh boy, I wasted almost like 4 years of my life, and I had to just, say it, and reflect, and, my, family values, how I was brought up, and other things my father told me just, came true. Like, I had to focus, I had to dream, I had to, plan, I had to, be very consistent, and of course with tenacity and, have self-drive. Yeah. So I just let it pass, and I spoke to my parents about it. Of course, they were disappointed, and but of course, I kept praying, and they kept guiding me, and I had to speak to some mentors, and everything, of course, it wasn't like it should be, but I got back on track gradually, and thankfully, like I said, it's just faith and grace, and I had to do so much more, to at least be able to measure up and, get these other opportunities coming in and coming through. So I, started with, different IT certifications. And I mean, then a couple of jobs, if you didn't have a good results, you couldn't even apply because they would filter through, with your degree, right? So I couldn't even apply, and thankfully I got an opportunity. And for me, I said, yes, I didn't want to burn this opportunity. So I worked really hard, like, spending extra hours at work, making sure I was the best in my team, understanding, the priorities of the company, making sure I was working really, really hard. And thankfully, it was recognized, I got promoted severally. I got, higher roles, I switched companies. And while I was in Nigeria, this opportunity came up in Abu Dhabi, and I was interviewed. I got the opportunity. So there's so much to talk about, but, the long and short is it does real pay, to have that focus, to get clarity of purpose, answer the why questions, why are you in school, what do you want to achieve with your life, and so I moved to Abu Dhabi, on a much senior role, and I really experienced, so much, benefits, and I thank God because, I didn't drown, those days, in the situation, right? So for me, it's not about the story really, because there's so much to say, but it's more about what lessons should people learn. First of all, I tell people, you need to acknowledge that success is a will. It's either you want it or you don't want it. You need to acknowledge that fact because it's never going to get easy. Life is getting more difficult. There are more challenges. And people need to realize that fact. And start. I tell people, start with the end in mind. You need to think about what do I really want to achieve. Why am I doing this? And start working towards it, right? I tell people also, you need to start talking to people because one thing that's really common with the generation is we just think we have it all figured out and you want to try stuff. There's no point trying stuff. You have people with loads of experience, that have done it, that have been there, and you just need to, hook yourself with the right people. They have experience, career guidance. They can tell you. I mean, they've been in different fields across different sectors, and they can really guide you. So talk to the right people. And definitely, it's a good head start. I mean, like I tell people, no one has it figured out. I don't even have it figured out, right? But it does help, to talk to people. And I also say, just trust God, because I'm a strong believer that, you might be focused, you might speak to people, you might start with the end in mind, but at the same time, you just have to commit your ways to the hands of God. And I think, this is basically, what I would say. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Stanley Wilson with his personal story.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the Views Lounge for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here and to share my story. To begin, I would like to say that my name is Stanley Wilson, and I currently work as a cybersecurity subject matter expert. I have a bachelor's degree in computer networking and cybersecurity. My hobby also is playing soccer, so I really love soccer. So just a little bit background about me. I came to the United States through the Diversity Visa Lottery, which was actually paid for by my then principal for all the final year students. So I was lucky that I was graduating at that year because it was a one-time thing, and I filled the form and I submitted the form. Luckily, or let me say, God's doing, I was selected. So that was the beginning of the whole process. So we worked on processing the whole visa stuff, got my diversity visa, got my did my documentation. I was able to come to the United States. And when I came to the United States, prior to coming to the United States, I didn't even have anybody to stay with. That was the funny thing, right? I didn't know anybody in the United States. It was just like me. So it's like, okay. So luckily for me, one of the people I spoke with initially, they actually gave me a number to a lady and also her address. Like they're like, this is the lady number, this is the lady's address. Don't call her. But they actually refer me to some of their friends who actually did disappointed me at the end of the day. So it's like, okay, I have this phone number, I have this address. Okay, what should I do now? So when I got to the airport, I didn't know anybody. It was funny. I got to the airport, I was like, okay, I didn't know what to do. So I have the address on paper. So I wrote it down. So luckily I brought it with me. So I just like went to the shuttle driver. I gave the shuttle driver the address, and the shuttle driver took me to a stranger's house, and I'm a stranger as well. So when the lady saw me, she freaked out. I was like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" I was like, "Someone so and so gave me your number and gave me your address." I was like, "Did they tell you to come here?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I didn't have any other place to go." So it was like, "Oh." We going back and forth. She tried to call the person who gave me her address and stuff like that, but I didn't think she was able to get a hold of him, so she took me to the motel, and I slept in the motel for like one night. So after that, she picked me up and she took me to her place, and she gave me an accommodation for at minimum 6 months or so, and she also like helped me get my documentation. This actually was a person with different race, different culture, and I'm a different culture, so it was hard. Like I couldn't eat, so she was actually buying me some African dishes for me to eat because she doesn't know how to cook our dishes, and even me, I don't know how to cook myself, so it was kind of challenging. But yeah, fast forward, she helped me get a job. I got my first job after a couple of months. I moved out. So while I was living life on my own, there's a mistake that I made, and that mistake has been something that has been in my head, like, how did I even do that, right? So I did something dumb. I'll call it dumb because in this age you can call it dumb. So it's like I took a MVA, it's a motor vehicle administration. I took a test for someone. I already did mine because I knew the question, I could pass it easily. So I made a mistake by taking it for someone, right? So when I did that, the person who worked at the MVA realized that this isn't you, right? Like why would you do this for someone? So she was like, I'm laughing, but it's a funny story when I look back to it. But she actually called the sheriff because the sheriff always at the MBA, and the sheriff gave me a citation saying I have to appear in court. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I was luckily they didn't arrest me. They just gave me the citation. So I was lucky there because I didn't want to have any arrest record, so that was good. So they gave me the citation. I had to appear in court, but before appearing in court, I reached back to Miss Anne, which was the lady I used to live with. I reached my family. I informed my family too, so they kind of like started praying for me as well. My mom, pastor as well, started praying for me, telling me that I'm gonna have a victory in this situation, that the case is gonna be dismissed. That's what they already told me a while ago, even before my court date. So I reached out to Miss Anne. So what she did was that she looked for a lawyer for me. The lawyer told me what to do, took the case, and luckily for me, on the day of the court, the day I was supposed to appear in court, when we got to the court, before I even got into the courtroom, the clerk informed the lawyer that the case has been dismissed. I was like, thank you, Jesus. Because I was just tense that day. It was just too much. Like I didn't even know what to do. I was like, God kept to his word. It was like the case was gonna be dismissed, and the case got dismissed. So like I didn't know, but I was just lucky. Like so, fast forward after that. During that time was actually when I was working on my associate degree here. I was going to HCC. So after I graduated, I was so actually let's go back a little bit. So after the lawyer handled the case got dismissed. So he like initiated the expungement process. So that record was actually that case was actually expunged from my record. So it's not on my record right now. Before it was publicly accessible data, right? But the case was actually dismissed. So after that, I was able to like be more cautious, living life more carefully. So I met a couple of friends along the way while I was in school that I had to like connect back to, and they kind of like put me through what they were doing because I was studying like information technology at that time. So when I graduated, I looked for my first IT job. I got my first IT job. One of my friends actually asked me to come teach with him. So I started teaching with him while I was still working IT. Unknowing, like it dawned on me that I'm teaching people actually to get jobs. So why can't I get a job in cybersecurity as well? Because I was teaching cybersecurity. So I was like, okay, I created a resume for myself, and I also started applying for job, and that was how I landed my my first cybersecurity job. So I started working in cybersecurity for a while, and then I've grown. I've gone through different level of security clearance, and the issue, my case that I had in the past never surfaced. So that was like completely expunged. I've done through FBI investigation and other investigations. So luckily for me, that record never showed up in my background. So I'm just like grateful to God for the opportunity. So what I want people to learn from my story is that how to like bounce back from setbacks. What I want people to learn is that you have to like keep the right group of friends around you. If your friends like aren't making any positive impact on you, there's no need of keeping them around, because friends can actually put you in trouble. You might not be doing what they're doing, but you could be at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Because if a police officer, for example, comes for your friend and they see you there, they will take you along with them. So you just have to make sure you keep your cycle closed. Like I have four, I can say I have 4 friends, and we've been friends now for like 5 years. All of them are all goal oriented, have a career. Most of them have actually like switched to cybersecurity because of me, because I created the path for them. So that has been what I've done for them. And I've also today I've been able to graduate with my bachelor's degree, and I'm almost graduating with my master's degree. So very soon I'll be done with that, and I plan on doing my PhD next. So that is the plan. So I also have my own company today. I have an IT consulting company, so where I provide like IT consulting services to the government, and also train people on how to like become cybersecurity professionals themselves. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your personal experience. Have to unlearn some of the things that we knew before and see how do we modify.
And all of those things lend themselves to self-expression in our clothing, in our hair, and in other ways that we want to say to people, look at me as a successful, confident person.
To wear a suit, you have to do your hair like this, your makeup has to be like this, Dami, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do kiniko. Well intentioned, absolutely well intentioned.